Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Drop Frames. We got Phil in the call. Phil, what was that? Is this Phil crazy? Is that the craziest we're gonna see?
That's crazy. That's as crazy as I get. That's it.
Well, before we get started, I'm sorry to do this to you, Phil. I just contractually, I got to do this, and we gotta. What do you guys
Nothing to
see?
see.
Anything?
Nothing. Let me.
Is
No,
there?
That great
nothing.
shirt.
Do we got? Yeah. Okay. We got a controller back there. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So
And
I'm assuming from the
Yep.
shirt that you're here to give us lots of insider information on Avowed. Feel free to continue.
that's true.
I can't wait to be able to show more about Avowed. It's no, I mean, really, just I'm gonna already interrupt your introduction, so we should continue. But I will go on with my Obsidian love forever. So I don't.
I
Want
think
to
you and Co both will. So I'm just gonna to interject here, and we'll jump into the interview. The last time I think we spoke was around last October, right before you guys were getting ready to launch the consoles. Uh,
Yeah.
how's everything going? How has the past year or a little less than a year been with all of that?
Um. I mean, overall, everything considered, I'm incredibly proud of the work that the teams have done in, obviously difficult circumstances. I wish we had more hardware. There's no way to avoid that conversation. It just bugs me to no end. The number of mail and social reach out that I get from people who've just been trying to get a console. Not just us, obviously, the PS5 is in high demand as well. I just think people at a time where they want to just invest in their gaming love and play new games, and these consoles are just so hard to get. And then you have like the bots and the scalper situation. So that part's painful, just because I always hate to disappoint people when they're trying to find the great console. But I'm proud of the hardware. I'm proud of the work that the game teams have been doing, both ours and third parties. And I think this generation for the industry is off to a good start. And I can't wait to see where it ends up. But I feel good. I feel really good about the products that we put out in market.
Apart from kind of the chip shortages causing a lot of the slowdown of sales and whatnot, what have been some of the other biggest pain points across the year you think for you guys?
That's been the biggest one. I mean, game production, and I've talked about this one a few times, that game production with everybody working from home, not to go all kind of game dev geek on it, but especially for games that were pre-content complete, so they weren't really in that kind of finalization phase over the last year. If the COVID hit and everybody started working from home and you were still trying to finish assets and to a level of polish, that was just a difficult situation. And I think we still see it. We still see some big games that are out there that don't have final dates on them as we try to final things. You see it on the third party side. It's just a difficult environment. Game development, especially large scale game development, is really a communal activity, and just unlearning all those learned behaviors of me walking to somebody's office, handing them the controller. How does this feel to you? And kind of going back and forth on different things. It's hard to replicate that remotely. So the fact that we're getting games out, both us and our partners, is a good thing. I think 22 is going to be a pretty amazing year, because you've just got a lot of stuff that was supposed to be in 21 that has ended up in 22. But I think the sunshine's starting to come through on that. Hopefully, we're seeing the beginning of the end of everybody working remotely. We'll still have some people that always work remotely, but just for that creative process, bringing people back together. But first and foremost has to be safety and security of the team. So, we weren't going to suffer. We weren't going to put that at risk in order to make more things happen.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Co, I think we all have questions, so we'll try to keep them brief. But yeah, Co, go ahead.
Sure. So this year's E3, I think I speak for a lot of people that watched that the Microsoft Bethesda showcase was pretty great, especially for how much content was there and the amount of time. Like, there were some huge announcements. There was some fantastic gameplay. Like, as a Stalker fan, I was going to be thrilled to see a splash screen. That was incredible. How did you guys think that it went? I'm sure I know you guys set lofty expectations. What was the internal feel for the show, and what was your reaction after everything?
Yeah, it's such a good conversation. 'Cause we start about 8 months before the show, starting to get the pieces together and kind of formulating what we think we're going to be able to put on stage. In this case, a virtual stage. I probably watched the show 30 or 40 times in some kind of version of it before it actually went live. I do my own internal grading. Some days I love it. Some days I don't. I can be looking at the same video. Sometimes it's just my mood of what's there. The thing I loved opening and closing with Bethesda as the first time we're doing the showcase together. I thought that meant something. And I always try to find meanings in parts of the show. So I loved having Todd come out. I thought his dialogue around the 20 years of Xbox, and he can do that authentically, just given the role that Bethesda has played on the Xbox over the years. I love the fact that we did that. Finishing with Redfall, I thought was strong. And I'm just like, when I think about, say, Playground and the work they did with Forza Horizon, I thought that was just such a good way to show what they had been working on. I will say, though, I was surprised how positive the reaction was. I was positive on the show. The reaction was even more positive than I had it. And sometimes it's the opposite, where I'm more positive than the show turns out. It's just the art form that is entertainment. But it's such a nice thing for the teams to work so hard for so long to put that show together. I love that we have the 30 games, 27 in Game Pass. I can do all my PR speak on it. But more than anything was just, as you said, team like Stalker, teams that did a really good job putting gameplay on screen, entertaining people. I thought the production team did a really good job with the pacing of the show. I thought that was just a highlight. I loved having Sarah come out and Pete come out and talk. I kind of look at the quality of the show as inversely proportional to how much I'm on stage. So this has got to be a great show. But I was just like a little section at the end. And that's the way we should keep it. We should keep the old guy off the stage. Let the people the smart people doing the work on stage. But I was really happy with the reaction, and I was pleasantly surprised to see everybody loving it so much. So that was great.
So on that vein, there were a lot of announcements. What was the big moment you were waiting to see everyone's reaction to, and did it deliver?
Yeah. One of them, well, Redfall is obviously one you just call out because it's Arcane, which is a studio that has a great following. I wanted to be the one to introduce that. I thought like that was something I wanted to get in. It's a game that Arcane hasn't done before. When you think about that type of game, at least Arcane, or let's say it's not the game that they're used to, that they're known for. But it's a game that they want to build. They have such passion and love for that. And I was curious, right? I was curious of people who were maybe thinking about Prey and Dishonored and other things that people think about under the general Arcane umbrella, and how Redfall would land. And I love the fact that for the most part, people wanted to see more gameplay. I get that.
Oh yeah.
But I thought the reaction to it was really good. The other thing I'd say is Flight Sim. Flight Sim was one that we'd had so many questions. When's it coming to console? When's it coming to console? We had a plan all along. We had to land some of the cloud aspects of it so we could talk to our Xbox One customers at the same time. But it's just such a striking looking game. It's just like visually, the team at Asobo is just killing it with how that game just plays. And I thought that was nice to see the reaction. My game that I wanted in the show, and I was so glad that was there just because I'm an avid snowboarder with shredders. So I was like, there's always one or two games that I just kind of cherry pick. And I said, okay, we're going to find a way to keep this game in the show. And I know it was a little part of the show, but I just love the fact that we were able to drop a snowboarding game in the show. That was great.
Yeah, snowboarding games are like coming back. And there's a lot of them popping up here at the start of the generation. Yeah.
This question was not pre-approved, but I have to ask, will you go snowboarding with me?
The
Absolutely.
invite.
Absolutely. I think I got to...
Or can I go with you, I guess, would probably be...
yeah. Anytime.
Better way to put it.
Kenny Burge and I go. Kenny was on our PR team, and he and I go. I think we went up 20 plus times this year. We got up a lot of times. I love snowboard. My daughter snowboards, like good family thing. So like I said, when I saw that game, I was like, yeah, that game's ended up in our show. That's gonna be there.
Nice.
I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to self-invite to that event. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll
Everybody
just all go to
on.
Denver and hang out. Yeah.
Just letting you know, I'll be there too.
That'd be fun.
We'll just show up.
Man, like if you've seen
Oh, you guys are here too?
We got good mountains here.
Yeah, of course. I think out of the three of us, I'm the big Halo fan here. Halo's been kind of with me throughout my life. It's where I started in a lot of ways in the industry in terms of covering MLG stuff and just kind of always having a Halo game at some point around in my life. And I loved what was shown at the showcase. It's been about 6 years since the last major release in the franchise. Obviously, you guys still have the Master Chief Collection, and that's been kind of an ongoing effort over the past couple of years. But are you finding at all that 343 is kind of having to reintroduce or maybe tutorialize a lot of the newer FPS generation, the Battle Royale kids, as it were? Is there any sort of like reintroducing of what Halo is to those people in the mindset and the marketing?
Well, you mentioned, I think MCC is doing some work for us there, just having Master Chief out, having it on PC and console. It's done well on Steam. It obviously does incredibly well in Game Pass and on Xbox. The nice thing about what Joseph and the team showed is it's kind of core Halo multiplayer, right? It's arena, it's big team battle. It's stuff that for those of us that have loved Halo for 20 years now, it's kind of what we almost think of Halo multiplayer is. I thought the arena stuff just looked so clean, and it was really easy to relate to. And obviously it hasn't been the easiest year for us with Halo and 343 and showing last year, and then having to move the date, which was the right call, but we never like to do it that way. So, man, was the response to what the team showed just so refreshing. Put wind under the sails of the teams, because you need to know, like, you guys are creators. You do work to put content out. You're never really sure how people are going to respond, and then when you get a positive response, you can actually feel the injection and energy in the team, and they make progress faster than they did the day before because of that. It's the community impact. In terms of like other modes and stuff, I think we've talked about Halo Infinite as something we want to build on over time. One of the things I can say that the teams have gotten really good at, Sea of Thieves is a good example, is building with the community. So taking feedback from what the community's looking for. I know 343 will do a lot of the same with that, but I like that we started with that core clean arena, big team battle. They've got some changes they're going to make, and you saw some of that in the video. But those kind of modes are pretty, they're pretty bomb-proof. They last for a long time. They're kind of evergreen. And I think I've been playing the builds. I play at least once or twice a month. I go over with the team.
Not
don't play with the testers.
By that,
I was going to say, never play a game with the testers of the game. They just destroy me. I think my gamer tag should be Swiss cheese. When
you guys have a lot of Halo pros too. That's your exactly. What are you doing?
Exactly. But it is good. It's good to go over and get hands-on controller and play. And so it was so awesome to get to show it in the show, and the response, like I said, it's just been. I thank the community for the support over the year, and it was really great to see the response.
I gotta ask real quick before Zeke does jump in.
Go ahead.
No release date in that trailer. Is still coming out this year. Can you shed any light on that? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. And you heard Joseph say in the talk track this holiday, for us, we know kind of our range in the 3-4 week range. We don't have yet the exact day. There's some other things with some other game timing that we're trying to look at. We'll have better clarity over the summer, but this isn't a month's thing. This is just down to a few weeks. And so we're like, okay, instead of picking this date and having to move it by a week, which at this point would feel like a fail, like we don't want to do that. Let's wait until we're really solid on what the date is. But the team's very committed to holiday. We feel good about that. And the way that Pierre and Joseph are running the team, I feel good about the confidence we have in both quality and getting the game done.
Awesome.
Just great to be.
Awesome. Zeke?
No, I just wanted to ask real quick, going back to you playing with devs and stuff. I have a buddy that is actually like a tennis pro, and he does like tennis pro lessons for like billionaires. Do you have like a game pro like that you can like call over and be like, yeah, I'd like to set up an appointment. No, I got to whoop some devs ass. So can you come over here and can you give me a lesson or two? Like
anybody who's happened to fall into like a Crucible match with me would know I should fire whoever's trying to teach me to play PvP. Because like if I'm paying somebody for those skills, it's dumb money I'm spending. No, like everything I do when I play, I'm the only one on my gamer tag. I sometimes get people thinking that somebody else is on P3 on Xbox Live. Nope, that's just me. And whether you think I'm halfway decent at playing or I'm horrible, it's that's just me. That's what I play. But yeah, I love. I mean, it sounds so cliche for a head of Xbox to say I love video games, but it's been my number one hobby since I was a kid. I was mentioning I'm lucky enough to get into a job where in this industry doing something I love with an amazing team, and it's I feel really blessed to get to do what I do, and I get to play games almost every night, and that's a blast.
I do have a segue that's a non sequitur, or that is, excuse me, that actually makes sense. Ready?
Okay.
You're a gamer. You tweeted that you finished Psychonauts.
Yes.
What's next?
Meat Circus included.
What's next?
Last night I started A Pirate's Life, which I think is really good. Yeah, the Sea of Thieves. And I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest licensed IP kind of DLC person. My gamer cynicism usually spikes when I see those things. But I just thought it was fantastic. I was playing with a friend. We played through most of the first act. First, the soundtrack, the work that Robin did with merging the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack with the Sea of Thieves is just fantastic. I'm playing that. I'm still playing a lot of Destiny. It just always has its hooks in me. I don't always actually know why, what Luke and Pete and those guys have done to me, but I keep playing that game. And really, I'm looking forward to Psychonauts 2. I have a dev build. Tim has fed me with a dev build of Psychonauts 2, but I'm going to hold off. I played a little bit of it, but I want to wait. August isn't that long to wait, so I can't wait to play that game. It's probably my most anticipated game right now, Psychonauts 2, just in the near term.
Awesome.
You think it's bad to do licensed IPs in games? Just wait till they start putting creators in games. No,
I would say it's bad. I mean, because there's clearly some like Spider-Man, what Ted and the team have done with Spider-Man's awesome. Like there's some licensed IP things. It's just, I've been in this industry and I've been a gamer for too long that so many bad examples. Not that I would ever think Rare would do that, but when they said, hey, we're going to do this, Disney, I'm like, okay, like the IPs make sense. To me, they exceeded any expectation I had. Like it's not exploitive. It's actually really soulful for both what IPs are and that experience. Not here to sell the game, but I was really blown away last night when I was playing. I didn't play any of the dev builds of that one, so I was fresh to it, and really great job by Rare.
Yeah. Co's the Starfield fan, the Bethesda fanboy really is the proper way to say it here. Co, I know you had some questions about Starfield.
Recovering Bethesda fanboy. But anyway, yeah. So Starfield. It was a big debut. I think I speak for many when I say we really want to know more, like what this game is, what it's about, and everything. But of course, we're not going to talk about that right now. What we are going to talk about, though, is how is Microsoft, especially in this crazy, unique situation where you are now the owner of Bethesda, and they have this iconic franchise that they've been working on for so long. How do you work with Bethesda on something like Starfield? Like, what is that relationship like?
Yeah. Now, just so everybody understands, we've known about Starfield for a while, just even as a platform. Like I'm lucky enough that I get to sit down with most of the third parties and see their 3-year roadmap, and we'll talk about things that they want to go do. So even before the acquisition, I kind of knew what they wanted to do with this game. I have a fundamental trust in Todd and what he wants to go build, and I've talked to him a lot about what he needs in Starfield. And that's where, after the acquisition, where it's really come, what can we do to help them ensure that they're going to build the best game they've ever built? Because that's his goal. And we're working with them now. We're still early. Obviously, the deal just closed in February. But even, opening the show, and this is our largest Xbox showcase ever in terms of viewership. We put that game on a real pedestal, opening the show, largest viewership ever, all the impressions of people now putting it on something that they want to watch. Todd's idea to put a date in the trailer, we talked about that a lot, about whether you do that, calling a shot that far out. But that's something he wanted to do. And for all of our studios, Matt Booty's really taken the approach, and Matt Booty runs our first party, of let's enable these studios to be the best versions of themselves they've ever been. And what do we need to do that? Some of those, it's to stay away and let them do what they always do. Some of them will either ask for some technical input or market input, creative input certain times. Some of it's funding. We go in if they need people in certain positions that maybe they couldn't afford before, that we can help there. So every game and leader is a little bit different. And it's been different for me because we're integrating in this team. I would normally be, sitting in an Alaska Airlines flight somewhere, flying to these studios and meeting them face to face. Now I'm doing them all over a call. And I was just on, like Marty Stratton and I were on yesterday, and we were talking about id and the roadmap there, which was fun. But I can't wait to get on the ground with the studios and to be talking about what they want to go do. But it really is, how do we make them, allow them to become the best versions of themselves that they can.
That is, I think I speak for a lot of us when I say very good to hear. On that note, and this is a little bit more of a targeted question. It's specifically about Starfield, but at the same time, it kind of goes for a lot of the things under your umbrella now. And this is, like back in the day, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. These games were incredibly ambitious, and Bethesda at the time was a scrappy little startup. So on release, a lot of times they had some pretty major issues. But at the time, people were more thankfully engaged in the content and everything. But these days, especially for something like Starfield, which is now like a globally known brand, like that kind of stuff is a little bit different. So my question to you guys is, do you kind of oversee the projects to make sure it's kind of up to your own standard, to like or do you just let them do whatever they're comfortable with? Is it the kind of thing where you might step in and be like, you know what, maybe we need to get like this stuff done before we release it to the wild, kind of thing? Or do you just have full confidence that they're going to make the decisions that they need to make?
Yeah, it's such a good topic. The number one, is it number one? One of the things we can bring to teams is context, and I think that's what you're talking about. And even sessions like getting ready for E3, one of the things we did is we brought all of the studio heads in so they could see what the other assets were, what they look like. Hey, here's where Playground is setting the bar with Forza Horizon, just so you know what else is going to be in the show and what things look like. And it's not, we don't just do that through sessions of like getting ready for E3. Matt and Jamie at Bethesda have done a good job getting the creative and technical leaders from the studios together. We've talked a little bit about this because it can be isolating when you're focused on your game and your head's down, and you actually, there's some goodness in that because you don't want to be overly influenced by other things that are happening. But at the same time, you do want to know, how does this game compare to other things that are in the market? So that's a context that we can bring. And the teams have been incredibly open door about sharing information, sharing their roadmaps. Here's where things are. And what that does, then we can then take the requests that come in. If a team sees something and says, hey, I really like how that team's doing shaders or animation. Can I jump in and kind of learn on what they're doing? Or maybe we can share some dev and creative capability. But that context is incredibly helpful to a team. Because a team only sees what they see on YouTube and Twitch. Like if you're an individual studio and you think about it, if you're Ninja Theory and you're working on Hellblade 2, you see your game and then you see what other teams show at certain times. Now we can actually sit down with them and we can say, here's what the Coalition is doing with Unreal. And you guys are on Unreal as well. Here's what Rare's doing with Unreal. Here's where the bar is going to be with something like a Fable that you haven't seen, but they can see it and say, okay, now I understand what gamers will be seeing when my game comes out, and where their expectation is. And I think that is very valuable. It's very valuable for the industry. It's one of the reasons the industry, we've always loved things like GDC and E3 because it allows us to see how our work and compares maybe isn't the right word, but it just sits next to other work that's happening and gives us a perspective on what we're doing. And that's so valuable.
Awesome. So kind of establishing that context, like these are the AAA games, like this is where we are, like, and we want to be at this level kind of thing.
That's right. And your point about a game like Starfield, and I'll put Halo in the same camp, where you're absolutely right. If you're a smaller team and it's earlier in your kind of evolution as a studio and you're doing something new or it's just lesser known, you can be absolutely amazing at a few things in your games. And sometimes the community will give you a pass on some other parts of the game because they'll say, okay, yeah. But when you're Halo, when you're Starfield, like when you're things that are of that size, you're expected to be, if we want to use the term AAA, I don't love it, but you're expected to be AAA across everything that you do because of the kind of pedigree that you have as a studio or as an IP or both in certain instances. And that's a high bar for any team to live up to. And you see it. Like there are amazing teams that are out there that do a great job every release, and every one of our studios aspires to hit that bar. But you're absolutely right. The bar raises as you raise in notoriety. And I'll also say being part of the platform, being a first party, and I don't love this part about it, but it does raise the expectation because there's certain people that out there that see first party games as kind of ammo against other platforms. That's not why we build games, but they see it that way. But when you're in a first party showcase about Xbox, there is a certain expectation about the level of quality and fit and finish. And that's important. So there's certain games, like if you take Grounded as maybe a good example. If you saw last year when we were talking about that, we made sure that we talked about the size of the team that was on Grounded and other things before the game came out, because we didn't want the game to suffer from this unrealistic kind of first party expectations. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But if you're Halo, if you're Starfield, if you're the next thing the Coalition is doing, if you're the next thing Playground is doing, like these teams, they just have to nail it on every aspect. But the nice thing is when you do, it's an amazing response with tens of millions of people coming and playing your game. And that's what creators love.
Sure.
That I think that's exactly what we wanted to hear. Thank you.
We've got one or two questions more. I know we're over, so feel free to yell at me if you got to get out of here. I heard your phone buzz. But I'm going to ask
the lawyers.
Yeah,
that's your time. Get out.
That's your time. Yeah. I know time is.
It was actually my wife opening the door to bring my dog in. So now my dog is here. That's
great. Fantastic. Well, I've got a question that I think is more streamer centric than kind of audience centric. But co-streaming is this huge thing on Twitch now and on YouTube, and it's become such a big way of
we love it.
Of content delivery in the industry in the recent years. More recently, specific this past year, like DMCA fears, and now with let's say some orgs doing co-streaming applications and things like that popped up. You guys had creators supported in your endeavors with the showcase, where you guys obtained the retransmission rights and things like that for the licensed music. What are your thoughts, like generally, on co-streaming as it pertains to this idea of working together with co-streamers and like the idea of DMCA over all of this with kind of a rainy cloud situation?
Yeah. I just think one of the best things that we've seen evolve in our industry over the last 10 years is the rise of the creators of any kinds. Drop Frames, you guys are all creators individually and you build content. Sometimes people build content live. Sometimes they build video content. Sometimes they build a video game. And the rights issues in restreaming that you talk about it's very complex, and we're not to play victim on it, but we're kind of in the middle, right? As a platform holder, because we're not one of the large video distributions, and we obviously not the music rights holder itself. We didn't create the music. Well, we did in some instances, but not most of our music. So we're working hard in this complicated space to reduce the risk. But enabling creators, I think, is just one of the unique strengths of gaming. When you think about it relative to kind of television and music and books and stuff, we just have the community is just leans in on creation, cosplay, like all of these things I see as just part of this amazing citizen creator capability that gaming has. And we need to manage through these rights issues. And as you said, some people kind of exploiting the situations with bots and other things. There is risk there. We're working really hard as Xbox and Microsoft to do as much work as we can to reduce that risk. And I think it's just going to be a space that we're going to have to work through as an industry. But I believe in the outcome. I believe that it's really good. We love co-streaming of our show. Even people making fun of us and stuff. It's fine. Like this is, I would rather have our content become kind of part of our creators to be kind of part of delivering the content as opposed to us trying to block that. You can go back to mods, you can go back to Minecraft and other things that we focused on there as part of this. But yeah, this is an area that we're going to have to continue to navigate in a legal way with the rights holders, but we're committed to it. We're definitely committed to getting to a safe and less risky outcome than we're at today.
Is there like a reshaping in a lot of ways of that you think has to occur in order for it to move forward? Because I will say, as in watching, not necessarily the Xbox show, but some of these other shows, the replacement was the same song 3 times over in a show, right? For the music. So like that sucks for both the company trying to, advertise their newest game. It sucks for us trying to be entertaining while also watching that when it's clearly it's got to change, right? Something's got to shift.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like the solution we're in now is clearly not a steady state because the outcome is just bad for all parties involved. And I feel like, we get in, and it's happened in other instances where we can get in these kind of stalemates of negotiation that happen for a while, but I feel like it will get broken. I know we're committed to that because the outcome doesn't help anybody. And when the outcome doesn't really help anybody, it actually doesn't help the rights holder in the end either. Because this should be another outlet for both, creators getting the value in what they created. I'm all for that. And creators who are then re-amplifying and creating their own content on top of that, feeling like they can do that in a way that rewards their viewers. And right now we're just not there. So I'm with you, JP. I don't think this is a sustainable outcome because it kind of leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth where we are today.
Awesome. Yeah. It's
also
fantastic to hear you say that.
Full disclosure, earlier when we were talking about co-streaming, you said we love co-streaming our show. I am going to make that my ringtone. Just want to, in case we're ever in, together in real life and you hear that.
That's your ringtone.
No, it's just going to be my ringtone. So,
some of our
forever in a real life environment and you hear that, I just want you to know.
Yeah.
Great. You'll wear a shirt that says "I'm Co." By the way.
I'm Co. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
exactly.
And that was a lot of energy from those, video snips of people reacting. Like the first time like the Game Awards when we showed Series X for the first time, or the first time when we did the Halo reveal, like those, seeing the co-streams and just the energy and passion of people who love this art form and being able to express whether they love or they hate what they see. But that energy is something that we don't want to squash. We want to, it's just such a critical part of what this industry is about to me.
Sure. Yeah. Zeke, I know you have one final question. I've got one, and then we'll wrap it. Zeke, go ahead.
I actually don't have, I have my note cards here. I don't have any more questions for you. I don't see anything else. I'm sorry.
Well done, Zeke. Well done. The only thing I can really say about Fable is seeing the pedigree of the team and Playground and where they set the bar for themselves in building a game. I think that showed with Forza Horizon 5, the preview that they had. I think people should just take confidence in that Gav and the team there have that same level of focus on doing something amazing with an IP that we know is really important to a lot of Xbox fans. So can't wait to get to show more. But the team is just amazing.
Awesome. I think we're all, my wife included, the biggest Fable fan I know, is very excited for it. Whatever you guys
wait for the next step.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Show more.
It's going to be very exciting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Final question actually comes from outside of the show. We have a voice that we bring on here a lot called Rami Ismail. He's a great guy. We respect him a lot. He had a question that is wanting to know about first party, third party, and ID at Xbox in terms of their portfolio. Where is that? Where do you see that growing towards? And whether do they have different distinct goals, or do they all kind of fall under Game Pass now?
Yeah, I think from a first party standpoint, I do think the goals are different. From a first party standpoint, we're trying to create games, and we won't always achieve this, but we're trying to create games that we're, as a platform holder, more inclined to go invest in and take creative risk on than maybe a third party would. Third parties' sole business is creating great games and monetizing those great games. As a platform holder, you have other things like Game Pass, like transactions that happen on the platform, selling controllers, a bunch of other things. So I think we should afford ourselves the ability to take more creative risk. And I'm not saying we've always hit that bar, but as a first party, I don't need to have a game in every popular genre, because third parties will usually go and populate the popular genres that are there. So I like us investing in things that we're kind of uniquely positioned to go do, whether that's episodic thing. I won't go through all the creative things, but you've seen things like Tell Me Why. I was trying to go through the last year of things that we've gone and invested in. But every time we start a first party game, I think of, why is this a first party game? And it shouldn't just be to kind of go compete with a third party game. That's a horrible reason to go to a first party game. So it's either something that our community's loved over years, or something that we're trying to do something different with, whether it's technically or creative or both. And that's really our first party goal. On the third party side, we want to partner with teams that we think we can help them. We can help them with discovery. We can help them if technical help. Some of the teams are just long-standing relationships. Here's a good example, and having Diablo 2 remastered in our show. It's Rod. Rod's a good friend of mine, Rod Ferguson. We were actually playing Destiny Strikes the night before together, talking about the fact that here we are working, and his game is going to be in the Xbox show again. And I like those opportunities, right? It can also be just about the community having great ties and us doing things. On ID, I want to enable more creative voices from more places on the planet. Like, that's our real goal. To me, ID should be a place where we hear stories and perspectives from creators who are probably less established or doing things that are different. And that's what we want to foster. And, Chris Charla and the teams out there, I think, has done a really good job over the years in helping developers. We're seeing more and more ID teams from different places on the planet, which I love. Thinking about ID studios that aren't in your traditional game development hotbeds, just really gives us a bunch of unique lived experiences that are now building creative works that we're all going to get to go try and play. And I do think, to be an ad a little bit for Game Pass, just apologies, but I do think Game Pass enables those games for us to go help fund those games, or completely fund them in certain instances. And we don't have to be solely tied to how many retail units they sell, to like how we feel about their success. Because we have such a large player base now. If we can get people engaged in games through Game Pass, and they love and they play for a while, the economics work really well for us. And consequently, we want to share those with the developers, so we can see more games like that come to market. So I think of ID as really a way for us to find new creative ideas that we can bring to market.
Awesome. I think a mob is forming in the chat, courtesy of a friend of ours, Maximilian Dude, who's a big Killer Instinct fan.
You're getting that too, huh?
Can you, I guess just say Killer Instinct. That might satiate them. I'm not sure.
I'm afraid to say KI. I'm afraid I get there's so many good games in our catalog that we'd love to visit. The response when we redid KI at the launch of Xbox One was fantastic. Not everybody inside of the Xbox org kind of saw what that game could become. I will just say, Matt and I have discussed many times KI and where we'd like to go with it, and it's not out of our minds that we might be out of our minds, but it's in our hearts and in our minds that we want to continue to do something with KI. It is about finding the right team and the right opportunity, but it is not due to any kind of lack of desire on our part that we're not doing more with KI, because we love the franchise and the community response.
Here on Twitch, we would say the copium is in high alert in the chat. We've got a lot of copium being handed out amongst the chatters at the moment.
Good.
Last question. We'll also let you do some shout outs. Is there anything in the show just at large, maybe even outside of the Xbox brand, that you personally want to highlight that you think is going to be awesome, that you're super, super excited for?
One thing, and I hadn't thought about this, so it just hit me. And I'm going to hit on a point that's just important to me personally, is I really love the teams that have adopted accessibility as a core pillar of their games. And I see that. I think Sony's first party is doing a really good job there. I see third parties doing a really good job. We've played a role in that as well. But we put this tagline up before, and I think of it as more as an industry tagline than an Xbox tagline of, when everybody plays, we all win. And I really think that matters. And I just love the fact that the industry itself is learning and growing its capability here. And it's not like our platform does this better than your platform. It really seems to be a collaborative thing across the industry. And I just love seeing it. I love every time a big first party or third party game comes out that's doing something unique and special in this space, that the industry applauds and learns from it, and it sets a new bar. And I think that's such an awesome thing to see our industry rally around that. So I just like a shout out there. It's great.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Awesome stuff. We're 20 minutes over. I'm gonna let you do some shout outs and we'll call this a show. By all means, anything you want to get out there. I'm sure Game Pass is, a thing you will probably mention. By all means, go ahead.
No, I just, this I'm just going to focus on the E3 showcase a little bit and the response and the love that I saw in the community. It's been a long time since I've felt this level of kind of confidence in what the team is doing and where our brand is going. And I know a lot of people have been on this journey for a long time. And when is Xbox going to be back doing things that I love as a gamer? And I do really appreciate the support and feedback that we felt through the years. And it's a nice time to feel that energy in the market right now, and not about any specific game or service or anything else, but really just people loving something that they've been invested in a long time. And we're proud as Team Xbox to be a part of that, and very committed to trying to keep that energy where it is now, and even building from it. So thanks for all that.
Thank you for coming on. I'm sure Zeke will be in contact with your secretary about the Denver trip. The snowboarding.
Who do I get a hold of for snowboarding?
Time is short, Zeke. We gotta go.
Real quick.
The last time you gave me a number, it was only like 5 digits long.
I just want to say real quick before we go, I have to point this out, and this interview made it even more something I felt like I wanted to say. A lot of us have been gaming for many years, and a lot of us have been gaming where games and game production was a passion project. And over the time, we've all seen how it's become, in a lot of ways, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And a lot of people are at the tops of these industries that are really just there to make money and figure out how to make as much money as possible. So I just want to say, it's so comforting to know that someone like you is in the position you are. You're so clearly passionate about what you do. You so clearly are a gamer. And it's really nice to know that people like you are still at the top and riding the ships in a lot of the ways, because it's very easy to forget sometimes that, there's a lot of soul left in gaming. So thank you for being one of those beacons. I think we really appreciate it.
Very nice of you, Co. Thanks for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic.
I want to echo that, because I don't want Co to be standing out there by himself, because people are going to be like, what an ass kiss. Like, seriously.
I don't
seriously.
care.
No, I agree with everyone.
I don't care.
No bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. We're going to wrap up the show. Thank you, Phil, for coming on. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Zeke.
Just let us know.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good to see you guys again.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, you as well. We're out of here, guys. Thank you for watching Drop Frames. We'll be back next week with another episode at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.